Hello, everybody. You should be joining now. Let's see here. And the recording is on.
Off to a good start.
Gotta make sure that the session is recorded. Okay, people are streaming in now, and we will start in a second. Thank you for spending your Thursday morning and/or early afternoon with us today. My name is Doyle Irvin. I'm head of marketing here at elvex. It's my job to make useful materials that help you figure out how to use AI. John, you want to say hi?
Hello, John Levitt, one of the co-founders here at elvex, and very excited to get in and show around some of the new stuff that we've got going on.
One thing I wanted to shout out here is that you can use the webinar chat. If you want to throw questions at us, if you want to chat with other people, everyone will be able to see your chats. There's no restrictions. So if you want to say hi and where you're dialing in from, say hi. Let's do it. And without further ado, let's get started. Okay, here we go. You should be able to see my screen now, and let's put it into slideshow mode. And I've got the chat open. Hello, Sherry from Raleigh, North Carolina. Thanks for joining. So we have office hours here today. We're basically just trying to help you figure out how to use AI to do your work more efficiently, faster. Maybe it's more fun that way. Who knows? We're here to help you. We have some content prepped for you. We're going to talk a little bit about, new models that we support and what models are good for what kind of use case, because sometimes picking that can be confusing. We have two new customer stories that we wanted to quickly shout out. Both of these things will be about 5 minutes. And then John has prepped a few demos of some of our new features, like drafts, which is my favorite new feature that we have. It's a lot of fun. And then we have open Q&A. And this is meant to be a fairly casual, informal session. So shout any questions at us as we're going. Interrupt us if you want. I'll be monitoring the chat. And you are all our customers, so we really appreciate you being here and using the platform. And without further ado, let's do it. So we now support kind of the big update here is we support O3 Mini, which is one of OpenAI's latest models. They had this big announcement recently about where they're going with models, but for what you can do today, we support O3 Mini, which is a reasoning model, which means that the model will quote unquote think basically as it is creating the answer for you, which really will help with kind of complicated tasks. So to back up a second, we support models from OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Cohere, Mistral, and you can support Amazon Bedrock and Azure OpenAI if you like as well to, more firewall the interaction. But for the most part, from our own usage every day and from what we hear from customers, we have some guidance here in the middle as to which models you should use. As a marketer, I have to write all the time, and still Claude is the one that really can kind of write in a way that is closer to the way that I want to write, and then I can easily edit it. It's also great for coding. So if you're writing or if you're coding, we really suggest that Claude Sonnet 3.5 is the way to go. As of the new update with O3 Mini, if you are, that kind of changes which OpenAI model you might want to use. If you have a really simple task and you want it cheap, fast, simple, the 4.0 Mini, great choice. And broadly, we now suggest not to use 4.0 anymore, and instead to use O3 Mini for the more complicated tasks with more asks. So if you have an interaction with AI where you're asking in a prompt for it to do like 5 different things, you should probably put it on O3 Mini. And then Google's situation is great if you want to be throwing a ton of context at it. You can see on the right, there's a column here called context. This is how much information you can put into a prompt and send to this model. And Google can take 1 million tokens. And 1 million tokens is like more than War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. So you can put a lot of information in there. And broadly, the way that I like to think about interacting with AI, more context is good, less tasks is good. So the more information you can give the model to do a good job in order to complete the job that you're asking it to do is a good thing to do. The less jobs you're asking it to do in each interaction is also good. So give it more information, ask it to do less stuff, break up your jobs to be done into multiple interactions instead of one big interaction. But if you are having one big interaction, O3 Mini is the way to go. Another thing to keep in mind here is that these models aren't very expensive. You know, 1 million tokens is a lot of output and a lot of input. Most of our customers are spending between $50 to $150 a month on token usage. So don't be shy about, pinging a lot of times. I'm looking at the chat. Everyone has said hi. Hello, hello, hello. Yes, okay. We'll address Michelle's question later. Any other questions about which model to choose for which task? This is very kind of, I know it can get kind of, technical, and, these companies are not very good at branding. All the models are very confusingly named.
I would just
And
add that it can be, if you have access in your elvex instance to multiple AI providers and models, just do some experimentation just to see how the responses change. If they change, there's some tasks that are very simple where honestly you may not see much of a difference between the models that you choose from. There's other tasks where you may see a bigger difference, as Doyle was kind of explaining, relative to the complexity of the instructions that the app needs to follow, and the task, whether it's writing or coding versus other things that you're looking to do. So experimentation with AI is, I think, like always my first go-to suggestion when people are curious about how to approach what they're doing or find solutions. Just got to try it. It'll lead you somewhere that's useful.
yeah, and I'm reminded now, the last thing I wanted to add here is that max output is how long the responses of these models can be. And even though it'll say 8,000 tokens, which is, maybe 6,000 words, a lot of them are trained not to actually output 6,000 words every time. They kind of curtail their answers unless you're very specific about, like, write me a 4,000 word report or something. But O3 Mini has a huge output ability. Here, it can, if you set it up correctly, put out basically, a summer beach read novel, that length of output. And oh, Michelle, thank you. That's a great question. Um, an example of a task that would demand mini is if you have kind of multiple asks in the same prompt, right? So, for example, if I'm as a I'll talk about marketing because I'm a marketer and that's what I do. If I'm putting out a campaign, I have to create a campaign brief of like who I'm trying to talk to, what I'm trying to say, what the goals are for the campaign. And then I also have to create, like a social media update. I have to create a blog post. I have to create 5 different emails. Those are all jobs to be done. They're multiple tasks. And usually when you try to stuff multiple tasks up into one prompt, the output gets kind of thinner and worse the more you're asking it to do with one interaction. And it's better to split those up into multiple actions. You kind of create your messaging and then you ask it to create the social media. Then you come back in another prompt, you ask it to create the blog. Then in another prompt, you ask it to create, something else. But if you wanted to do, one ask, one prompt, and create all of those things, it can output, roughly 70 to 80,000 words, which is far more than an entire marketing campaign. And this is the kind of scenario where you're asking it to output multiple things. Especially if you're doing like math stuff, it's another, if you're doing kind of a math interaction, maybe you're analyzing data, that frequently has multiple jobs to be done as the process. And this is another situation where you want to use O3 Mini. Michelle, does that answer your question? Sweet, cool. All right, it looks like we can move forward. So I just wanted to quickly, this will be about 5 minutes. We have two kind of customer stories we're going to share with you just as an example of, cool things that people are doing. The first one, our customer Embark, and Miles Collins there, who's fantastic. The point here is that they really wanted to get broad adoption across their business. And the consulting industry is being disrupted by AI, as well as all the clients of consultants. Everybody's talking about AI. And so what they did is they created a really good kind of steering committee and incentive framework for their company to like get excited about it, get everybody, at every level of the hierarchy engaged, embracing it. And they're seeing huge adoption there, which is pretty fun because they've made it fun. Another aspect of what they've done is they really, really fine-tuned the process of someone making an app for other people at their business. And so you kind of get like a champion who's really deep on the prompt engineering and figuring out the inputs and outputs so it works perfectly, and then spreading that out to everyone else who might want to use it. They have a ton of different ways that they use the platform. Some of their favorites are meeting prep. Consultants have lots of meetings. If you have lots of meetings, they created like this research bot that'll help them go into every meeting in top form. The next story I wanted to share is Alan Smodik at Automatic. So they're an enterprise business. Instead of millions of consumer customers, they have hundreds of enterprise customers where there's tons of different interactions with any one given customer. Alan is a super deep subject matter expert who in the customer support function would have to kind of drop in on a new customer interaction to solve a specific problem. And he was spending a ton of time just reading context, the backlog of information about like, what is this customer experiencing, just so he can go in and solve the problem with all the information that he needed. Now they used Gainsight. They use Gainsight, which is kind of like a CRM tool. If you don't know Gainsight, it just tracks all the different interactions that you might have with your customer, how they're using your product, the meetings that you have with them, the emails that are being sent, all this other stuff. And he wanted to be able to use AI to interact with this information. So he could ask, in natural language, what's going on with this customer, and maybe follow up with specific questions about, the issue. The problem is that Gainsight had these features, but they weren't very good and they were locked behind a contract upsell. If you wanted to use AI to interact with your customer data, you have to renegotiate your contract. You have to get sign off. You have to get, leadership bought in, all that sort of stuff. Alan figured, that information is accessible to me right now. I just got to figure out how to use elvex to interact with it. So Gainsight actually has an automated email that gets sent to Alan every time there's an interaction with the customer. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you right now is that lots of us have different automated email kind of systems, or you could set one up. Whether or not you're doing customer support, everyone gets email. And so he created a little script with the help of elvex that extracts those emails, puts it into an elvex data source, and kind of becomes that new source of information for that given customer. And so now he can just chat with his elvex bot. Hey, what's happening with Salesforce? Salesforce is one of their customers. What's happening with, any other number of their customers? And the point here is that it took him 30 minutes. He was like, I want to be able to interact with this information with AI. I'm not sure how to do it. Let's figure it out. He went from start to finish in 30 minutes without having to negotiate a contract, didn't have to like get people bought in. It just works. And it was a way to solve this problem and get access to like this software feature without having to do all the work, acquiring new software. Cool. So I'm going to check the chat here. John, have we had any questions?
Uh, no, but there's a couple things that I can cover once we get into the demo that'll answer some of the questions in there.
Sweet. Cool. Let's go to the demo. I'm going to stop my share. You should be able to share now.
Yep, we should be good to go. So there's a couple of basics. I know we have some fairly new users to elvex on this call, so I'm going to do a quick, like, high-level overview of the platform, the company, why we're here, what we're here to help with, and then we'll start to cover Michelle's question about the AI models, and then we'll get into some use cases that we have prepared. So high level, we want elvex to be the place that you can come to interact with LLMs, create custom assistants, connect to data and documents within your business that you would need AI to have access to complete the tasks that you want it to complete. All of that within a centralized place across any models that you want to work with, and with data privacy turned on as a default feature. So you don't have to be concerned about any of the communications that you're having through elvex being leaked into training models for the AI providers. So that means that you can come into elvex and start immediately having a conversation with ChatGPT the way that you would if you went to ChatGPT directly. But again, your license is already paid for inside of elvex, and you don't have any limits on usage, and you have data privacy as a default setting with access to other models, as Doyle has covered a little bit before. Now, if you're curious which other models can be added, which providers, in this demo instance, we have Cohere, Anthropic, and OpenAI connected. Admin users on elvex can add any number of other options here as well. Not shown in this demo environment is models that are hosted on Amazon Bedrock, which could be like open source models, or even Anthropic's Claude models that you just want to host in a more private environment. So as if you're not an admin, if you're just a regular user role, you don't need to worry about this. Your admin users will connect to the AI providers and models that they have approved at the company level. If there's a model that you want to have access to that is not yet made available for you, you could talk to your admin users internal to your company and have a conversation about adding those additional models. All right, so getting into some use cases that we have prepared. I'm going to go into this research assistant first, and I have some tabs opened, which will help us move a little bit faster through the demo. And I'm just going to go back to some conversations that we've already generated previous to this demo. So excuse that we're not doing everything live, but it'll help us get through more content and cover what we need to cover. So in this case, this is a research assistant. You see that we have a little description of what this assistant is meant to do. It's designed to automate web-based research, draft comprehensive reports, and refine content through iterative question and editing. We have some tools that are enabled for this app to use. So this app can access the internet for information. It can analyze data like tabular data if we need it to. I don't think we need it to in the examples that we're looking at today. It can search data sources if there are any connected. In this case, there are not, but in a future version of this app, there might be. It can generate images, and it can use the drafts feature to generate documents, basically. And so we'll see some examples of that. So this was a fun first experiment I did with this app. Where did elvex get its name? And so you can see that it's doing a few different searches here, trying to follow the instructions that we've given it to do a comprehensive set of search terms and research so that it can really get complete information about the topic that we've given it. On the first response, you can see that it's generated this draft here. The draft, when it's live responding, will open up automatically. And you can always like reopen it if you decide to close it. And the draft is where we're getting the actual like report, the research report. Now, this was fun for me because this is actually right on point with how elvex was named. So it's adapted from an Isaac Asimov short story. And if you're curious, you can create your own version of this app and get to a similar answer. Now, I thought that this was a little bit too concise, and so there's some tools up here in the drafts feature that we can use to adjust the length or adjust the reading level or add some final polish. So in this example, what I did was I said, let's expand this and make this much longer, which you'll see it kind of takes you through what it did here. And if I click over to the second version, you can see that it's much longer. There's additional sections. It adds in a conclusion and fills in some additional information and details that it found through its initial research. So this is a quick way to just start to collaboratively work with elvex to get to the final version that you're looking for. This is also a directly editable workspace here. So I can say overview from elvex, and I can save those changes and use that as like the version that I'm using going forward for any further refinements. Now, I was also curious to incorporate some additional new features here, which I said, let's generate an image. And was asked for a little bit more information on the image that we want to generate, again, following the instructions here to make sure that we're refining through a questioning and inquisitive process. And so I said, I'm not really sure about all the details, but let's generate an image. And so here's the image that we get. This is accomplished using OpenAI's DALL-E image generation model, which again, we have to, in this case, make sure that these tools are turned on for this specific app. You can imagine there might be some instances where we don't want some of these tools turned on. And so it is important to make sure that if there is an app that you're using where you envision image generation being an important capability for that app, or this drafts feature or web browsing, you have to make sure that in the configuration of that app, it's actually turned on. So if we want to quickly look at the app configuration just to like see how some of this stuff gets set up, this is the screen that you'll look at here. Whether you are the creator and editor of the app or a user of an app that someone else has created, you will be able to see the full set of instructions. And in this case, you can see that as Doyle was presenting earlier, there's like several things that we are instructing this app to do, and it's following the instructions really well. Because this is there are a decent set of instructions here. We did choose to use the O3 mini model for this specific app. But again, we can easily change that to any other model that we would want to work with. And when you're selecting your model, you can see that you do have some additional context about the model in terms of the input tokens, the output tokens, and we do some like rough conversion to number of words to make it a little bit easier to figure out like what does the token actually mean. Words are kind of like how we're best accustomed to operating. Coming back really quickly to the tools, pretty easy to turn those on. You can just make your selections and enable the tools that you want available for each of these apps. So that is our first use case. Doyle, yeah.
Yeah, this is something that I enjoy using because it's instructed to think up ways to find the information, right? And so instead of like Googling stuff myself, I just kind of describe what I want it to find out, and it will think up 5 different ways to search for this information. And then for each of those searches, it covers the top 10 results and aggregates them into an answer. And so you're basically doing like 50 Google searches at a time. And so it's just a much faster way of doing research. And and getting the information you want. So I use it all the time.
Yep. All right, I'm going to do one more use case on this app in particular. So just chose to do some research on Pepsi, saying we're meeting with the CMO of Pepsi to tell them about elvex, help me research them and the company so I can be prepared for the meeting. The first instance was kind of just like fun for me because, elvex, I was curious if we could actually figure out how we named the company. This is more, and there's just less information publicly available on that. So a much shorter report that we were able to generate. There's a lot more information on Pepsi and its top executive employees. And so you can see that we had a lot more search results come back and a much longer report that was generated to help us complete the task that we were looking for here. So completed the research, great, that was good as a first step. Then I asked it to do something else. I said, create a spreadsheet in drafts with the top 20 Pepsi product, include details like name, year launched, annual revenue, and any other details you think would be useful. So it goes off and does some more searches, has some more questions for me because Pepsi has a lot of different product lines. So what are we actually looking for? And it creates another draft, which I can get to by clicking here, or I can also highlight over and get to the second draft that was created, which is this spreadsheet. So again, this is an editable document. So even though this research was not able to find the annual revenue, I might know that the annual revenue is, I don't know, lots of threes. Or, maybe I know that like, oh, actually, I want this named a little bit differently and I want to use a dash instead of a slash. So again, helping you like get to the version of the document much, much faster than having to just like only work within the conversational stream of response. So great, now I have this data. What do I want to do with it? So I decided just for fun, can we create a trivia game using the Pepsi products in the spreadsheet you just created? It'll be a web-based game. The answers to the trivia questions will all be product names from the sheet that you created. The questions can use the information in the sheet or any other information from your research. This game should have appealing design, so on and so forth. I gave it some other requirements. And again, so it asked me some more questions. These questions were really helpful because there's like a lot of information here that I didn't give it that we could clarify and get to a more useful version. And then it actually generated the code for me for this app to work, which was really cool. I'm not an engineer. I don't know much about writing and running code. So what I do next, I came to an app that we have that is just like basically a pass through to Claude 3.5 Sonnet. And I said, I'm not a web developer, but I have the following code. I'd like to test and see if it works. Here's the device I'm using. Can you give me step-by-step instructions? I get the step-by-step instructions and we can actually test this out. So within like a matter of moments, I was able to get a working web app as someone who is not technical at all. And like it actually functions. So Doyle, pop quiz. Which iconic sports drink, a leader in hydration, was introduced in 1965? You have 5 seconds.
Gatorade.
Boom, correct.
Yes.
Got it.
Darsha, you and I were on top of it.
So like, granted, this is not ready for production. Like you're not putting this on your website or like putting it in front of customers yet, but like a really awesome proof of concept that I made in literally 2 minutes without any development skills. I just wanted this to be an example of like, think outside the box, stretch the limits and possibilities that you think are available to you with your skill set and see what you can actually accomplish if you really stretch yourself and get some help from elvex. All right, Doyle, I have a couple more use cases, but any questions or additional stuff that we need to slow down on?
We haven't had any questions. I did just want to add, like, I don't know how to code at all, and I've been using elvex to write scripts for me, primarily to interact with my calendar and my email, and kind of just synthesize the amount of, I get so many emails, and my calendar's a mess. And it's running these scripts for me and makes my life easier.
Yep.
So no
Working with
questions.
APIs, writing custom Salesforce code, even like splitting. I've had PDF documents that were like 1,000 pages that I need to split into 100-page chunks so that I could have the right file size to upload somewhere and could, give me the code that I need to do that. not necessarily suggesting if some of you are just getting started that that's like the first thing you start with, but again, like stretch the limits of what you think is possible and see where it takes you. All right, so I'm going to go into another example here. I'll quickly show the instructions, fairly basic, but in this case, so we're assuming that we are in business development. We're going to supply elvex with some URLs, and we're going to ask it to extract data so that we can build a list of prospective clients. And so that's what we've done here. We've given like, here's the URL, extract the information, and here you go. It creates the spreadsheet with all of the available information. In this case, there was no website information available. These are local businesses, so it kind of makes sense. Not everyone has a website. And like perfect example of using elvex for data extraction. There's several other ways that you could do this. Another way that I have prepared to show here is we take a screenshot of that same page. Maybe it's not easily copy pastable. Maybe that website blocks the ability to crawl and access the page programmatically. So take a screenshot, upload the list, upload the screenshot, and we get the same list extracted here. We're not sacrificing any data quality because of the methodology that's being used here, which is kind of cool. Third way that you can kind of think about where this sort of like data organization use case might be really useful and where the drafts feature comes in as a really nice way to assist is if you just have like really jumbled text that you need to structure into a list. Like I could have just copied and pasted everything from that page into a mess and had it format it and structure it the way that we need to be able to work with it further. All right, a couple more. This one is
We did get a question. Sorry, I was typing something. Nicole, I'm gonna send you an answer in the chat, but Andrea, your question, she's saying, I saw the top 20 list on the right screen, but I had trouble copying into a CSV. Is there a recent change as it was much easier?
so like copying this into a CSV. I think
I believe so.
yeah, if that's the question. So if you currently, I think we're going to make some improvements here, but if you copy using this like quick copy button and paste into a CSV, it's probably going to give you like a comma separated where it's not automatically putting each column into its own column. If you like copy paste instead by like clicking and dragging through and paste it over, it will copy as you would expect into the columns in Excel or Google Sheets. There'll be some improvements there. This is a very early feature for us in terms of drafts. So I think it's only about a week old. So there will definitely be more to come. And that experience of getting your work out of elvex and into the place where you will be doing the forward future work, we're going to continue to make improvements on that. But that's a good question and exactly the type of question that we're here to answer today.
She's asking about a download button.
Yes. So I think so you can also, if you're not using the drafts feature, you can generate a table inside of the conversation response. And I think there's a download button there. I would imagine that we will add a download option to the drafts functionality. Just didn't make it in the first cut. But good
Okay,
question.
let's keep going.
Cool. All right, so another new feature that was added is image analysis, and this is turned on by default. So this isn't a tool that you need to add. It's just a tool that is like built into the models. So in this case, I just copied and pasted this image that I found on the web into elvex. And again, because the app has specific set of instructions, it knows that when it receives an image, either through a copy paste or if I were to upload an image using this feature here, it knows what to do with that information. So it's going to say, great, I'll analyze the image, extract the data into the spreadsheet and provide some basic analysis on the trends. And so you can see that. And here's, oh, sorry, this is version 2. I wanted version 1 first. So this is version 1. It's just doing the extraction of the data that it's interpreting from the image. Now you'll notice it's giving us like precise calculations here. If we go into the image itself, there's no data that's giving you the precise numbers that align to each point here. So elvex is doing the work to basically interpret like, okay, this green dot here that's just below the 1.2 mark and this blue bar that's just above the 1.2 mark, like what number is that actually precisely? It's doing the work to interpret that and figure it out, as you can see here. So, I mean, the only other way to do this would be to like use your eyes and ballpark it. So this is a much faster way to get the information that you would need in a case like this. Now, in the instructions, after it creates the spreadsheet, we're also asking it to do some additional work, which is like create a report or analysis. So again, you see the drafts feature in play here. Interestingly, though, here compared to what we showed in the past, we're asking it to create both of these drafts and their different types of drafts in a single response or request response instruction. So if we go into the configuration here, I can just show the rules so that we can see exactly how this one is set up to work. And this is the instruction. So it's a fairly like simple set of instructions, but really powerful so that I don't have to spend extra time like waiting for a response and then prompting the next message. So you must always first extract the data from the image. And then once you've done that, create a document to provide analysis on it. So that's exactly what we've seen that it has done here. Now, the next interaction that I had here is I said, calculate the percentage change from year to year for each column in the data, and then add that to the spreadsheet as an additional column. So if I go back up to drafts and I go to the spreadsheet, you can see it's indicating that there are two versions here. And I'm just going to delete that because I don't need it. And you can see that it has added the year over year calculations in these last 4 rows here. So not only can elvex extract data, put it in a table for you, it can also do calculations and help you basically like, again, just advance the rate at which you're moving through some of the work that you have to do here.
Yeah, I'm not, I mean, I'm okay at Excel, but I'm not amazing. And just being able to type in like, hey, do this math for me is, and then it does it and it's right. It's huge. I love that. Okay, we got a question from Tyler Spencer. Hey, Tyler. Is there a tool that allows you to do the reverse? Take data from a spreadsheet or document and create a visual. So maybe show if you can pull it up, can you show creating like a chart instead of
Yeah.
image generation? Yeah.
So I'll pull up another example that we have here and let's see if we have an example in here. So this is a different app. It's connected to 100,000, over 100,000 fictional survey responses from an airline satisfaction survey, just sample data that we downloaded from the web. And this is a data analysis use case here. So we are querying the data source that is attached, which is that survey data. We have this in a Google Sheet. So any updates, like new responses that come into this survey data, will automatically be live synced to elvex. So we're always operating off of the most recent version of the data in the file. And we can ask it questions like, show how baggage handling scores are grouped by age range. You'll notice that this is not like we didn't tell it what age range to group into. It's using its own decision power to make those groupings for you because that's like the instructions that we have in this app. You could be explicit and say we want it to group this way, or if we don't give you specific ways to group, or if we don't give you very specific instructions on how to complete the task, ask us before you do it. In this case, we're happy with it just like making its own decisions here. And so it's generating the query. You can see the raw results that come back from the query, and then you can see the rendering of the visualization as well. And this app is also configured to always provide analysis, editorial, and recommendations.
So yeah, you can create charts and yeah, you want to show a few different line charts, area charts, etc., bar charts.
Not that much variety in
And
here, but yes, you can see the different
yeah.
types of visualizations.
And this is, to be clear here, it's distinct from image generation, which I would not use to make charts. I would use this feature to make charts instead of asking it to generate an image of a chart.
Yep. Cool. All right. So we have one more use case that we wanted to show here. This is a prospect research assistant. So kind of similar to the use case that we had before, but with a little bit of a different twist on it. So we're providing like, hey, here's someone who we're going to meet with, do some research. So it's doing web research first to find the information that it needs, but the instructions also tell it to reference the data sources that we've connected, which there's a bunch of sales and marketing material in here. And the reason that we're doing that is because once we have the research completed, we want to create a draft email to Andy. And that email is meant to be personalized based on the information that we've gathered about Andy and his company, and also like case studies and other relevant information that we have at our disposal to make a compelling opening, like, hey, we'd like to have a conversation. So you can see this version here, and then what I've done is said like, this is really long. So again, we're using the shortening function here in the next request to get to the next version. And this is significantly shorter. Now, what I might do if I'm realizing like, hey, every time I'm using this app, it's giving me like really verbose responses, I can give it additional instruction, or I can even say like, here are examples of responses that I really, really like. Use these as models for how you create the next output. Basically, like use this as a template or a reference material or a guide. So we can kind of combine example material that we wanted to model off of with instructions in the configuration, as well as other data sources with supporting material. So I really like this use case because it's showing how you can combine different sources of information together in a really compelling way, starting with web research, also using data sources that we've explicitly guided it to use to get to the response that we're looking for.
And we have a case study coming up with our customer Movable Inc. And they have a really awesome version of this research assistant, which, you know, write it in kindergarten language.
I,
Um,
I always like seeing it
and
in kindergarten language because often I'm like, actually, that's the one that I want.
yeah, we helped other companies do things faster and better. Yeah. But anyways, so I'm putting together this case study. It'll be coming out soon. And it is just really impressive what they've done and like how many different sources of information they're using with this research assistant. I mean, they're taking like financial information, they're getting competitors' financial information, they're getting recent news, 10Ks, you know, all sorts of stuff, and a lot of different systems plugged into a kind of like a research and meeting prep assistant. All right, John, back to you.
Yep, I think it's the last thing right now that I'm going to show, which last new feature I think that we haven't covered yet is this voice to text option. So if you get tired of typing long blocks of text and would rather talk to elvex, you can do that. So I'll do a quick test right now. I need to send an email to customers about new features that we just launched. All right, so it obviously transcribes that here. I can click send. And this should highlight another feature in the home app experience, which is that primary chat that you see when you first log in. So I've said I need to send this email, and it's recognizing, hey, you're trying to do something that we have an app for already. This product release comms app is what you should use. And so I can say, yes, let's use that. And it's going to guide me to that app so that I can get to work in the right experience. So if your company has lots of apps already created and it's, you know, sometimes hard to know where to go, you can almost use that home app as like a search feature to find the app that you're actually looking for. And then just to highlight the data sources and the data connectors here. So now that I'm in this app, what I need to do is I'm going to connect through Google Drive, and I'm going to navigate to the file that I want to use here, the release notes that can allow elvex to populate the content that I need. And again, this app has the instructions, so I just need to provide it the document. And once it has the document, I will click send, and it'll go and do the thing. So I saved the actual live demo all the way for the end, just so that we could expedite and get through everything that we needed to get through. But one thing I also wanted to point out, so Doyle was mentioning a little bit earlier in his part of the presentation that sometimes it's better to just like, take a small task and, do one small task and then do another small task. This is actually an example of where we're doing multiple tasks in the same prompt. So we've done enough testing on this to feel confident that it can handle all three of these requests at once. If we were trying to do 20 things at once, that's probably going to be overwhelming. For our purposes here, we feel pretty good about the three different drafts that it created. And in this case, you can see we asked it to create a detailed customer email, a concise in-app notification, an engaging LinkedIn post. Here's the LinkedIn post. Here's the in-app notification. Here's the email draft. We may make some edits here. We may use some of the tools, but nonetheless, like this gets us to that first version really, really fast. And I see we have a question from Michelle. Can we upload a document that has the prompt in it, or are we better off cutting and pasting the copy? I can't say that I've tried that. I think if the app has the instructions in it to direct elvex to when a user uploads a file, read the file, extract out the prompt from the file, and then do the task that is asked in that prompt. I feel like that would work. I don't know that it would be like my first choice on how to set this up, but it should work. And this is again one of those things where I just say, test it. Experimentation is really good. And so if that's like the workflow that works best for you, then and it works inside of elvex, then go for it.
Okay, send in some questions here. I have another small thing that I want to demo. But I think, John, that was all the stuff you wanted to run through, right?
Yep.
Okay. So send in any questions that you might have. I'm going to pull up another small demo. That's not the Gmail what I wanted over this Gmail.
Are you going to bring up the use case that you were talking about earlier?
Newsletters. So just kind of the prompt for the need of this thing. There's a lot of stuff posted on the internet and not all of it's good. And one of the things that I have to do as a marketer, and I'm sure many of you have to do just in your jobs, whether you're media or not, is like stay up to date on really good, trusted, validated sources of information. So what I did is I went and I found 10 different Substacks, newsletters, etc., from like people that I knew because I did my research, were, creating really good information. And I went and what I wanted to do was create a little AI app where I could interact with that information quickly and just be like, hey, what's the news today? So what I did, I'm going to share my screen here. I subscribed to these newsletters and I tagged them all. You could see that there's a label newsletter and basically just all the different sources of information got hit with this tag. And I then asked elvex to write for me a Google Apps script. And it's basically as simple as doing this, just like write a Google Apps script for me that takes all the emails tagged newsletter in my Gmail and puts it into a spreadsheet. And so it began doing this. I don't know how to code. It's writing the code for me, and it's also going to tell me how to use it within the Google app. So like you can see here, it's saying this is what I'm going to do. It created this sheet. It's now creating the instructions. It tells me this is what this script does. Then it tells me here's how you use it. And then here is like which buttons you need to click in order to do the stuff. And then, a few more things to think in mind. And so this is this thing live working. I have it's probably too small for you all to see. So you can see that it is just extracting the entirety of every email and it puts it here. And, there's 50,000 words or something. There's a bunch of UTMs and blah, 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 blah. And all I needed to do was kind of take the script that elvex wrote for me, paste it here, hit run, and it starts working. And now I have an app where I can, here you can see in the video, we're gonna mute this here. I have an app where, oh, that's low resolution. Um, but I can just, what this says is, what is the news today? And it, writes the news out for me right here in Slack. And then I can ping my boss and say, hey, did you see this news? Maybe we should post about it. Oh, there, it updated resolution a little bit. And so now I can stay on top of all the information that's public in the world that I need to find out, just interacting with it. Hey, Sachin, check this thing out. And like, this is just my use case, but if you are somebody who gets emails and wants, and like has them categorized and tagged in your Gmail, wants to do things with them, asking elvex to write a little script for you and asking it to tell you, how do I use this script, will help you kind of do pretty awesome stuff with your email contents like I'm doing here. So yeah.
One other thing, Doyle, that I just caught while you were doing that, I noticed you had a an app called, was it Anthropic 3.5 or Claude 3.5 Sonnet for Doyle, like your
Yeah.
own personal version of it. I assume you
Yeah.
have some like, custom rules or context or instructions in there so that it may know that you're not a developer and you need step-by-step instructions if you're asking for help coding something. So that's like another good tip, I think, for folks on this call. And I'll just quickly screen share again here. So in this, we'll just go back in here. If you're using the home app, you can customize your like the context experience that the home app has. So like, for example, always, oh, that's funny. That's a
I
misspell.
saw that earlier, John, and I was really sad.
Sorry. So you can add some context. You can say like, my name's John. I'm the founder of elvex. Sign all emails with that signature. Always write elvex in lowercase. I'm not a developer. I need detailed instructions on anything that's technical. You can put all of that context in here. You could also create a separate app that, as Doyle did, that has maybe more customization over the tools that you want that app to use, and you can make it just your own. And so it could be a good way to just like further personalize and customize the experience that you're having with elvex. And last thing here, we didn't, I don't think, touch on this, but if you have an app that you want to build and you're not sure how to get started, you can use this app builder, which is what I did to create a couple of the apps that we saw in this demo. So this was the, I want to create an app that takes images and charts and puts it into a spreadsheet and then does some analysis. And elvex is going to basically like take that information and create the initial configuration for you. So at least it saves you time. So, or it saves me time. Like I'm a bit experienced and I can, figure out how to write the instructions and rules and all of that, but it can save me time to get it done faster. If you're newer to using elvex and AI, this could be a good way to get started, just to like get to an early version 1 of the thing that you want to create, where you can start testing it. And through your testing, you might realize, oh, some of these rules are not actually the rules that I want, and you can change them and experiment a little bit more from there. There's some more improvements coming to this app builder experience over time too, so stay tuned for that. But as it stands right now, it's a pretty good way to just get something working really quickly.
I'm going to, so the app builder is an app that if you click on the apps button on the left-hand screen, you can just, it's also up at the top. So it's loaded into everyone's interface and you just have to find it. Sweet. I'm also going to share a resource really quickly. If you are like trying to think up ways to use AI, I'm going to put into the chat the download link, but I'm also going to show you what you will be downloading real quickly. So let me share my screen here. X out of these things. Cool. Here we go. So this is a PDF that you can download, and it's, I don't know, 90 pages long. It's got a few like instructions on like what are this one, what are good ways to set up prompt, right? So for each prompt, it should have a name, it should have a thing that it's supposed to do, it's supposed to have some rules, it's supposed to be connected to some data, it's supposed to have some information that it needs to complete the job. This is just a help on how to create a good prompt. What this resource also has is this is an example of an assistant that you can create, the advanced PDF transcriber. And you can just copy and paste this stuff into an assistant that you're trying to create in your elvex app rules, and it will do this job. Each of these pages has like a who uses this thing, why you might want to use it, what kind of data. There's sample data for apps that need data, and copy paste instructions that you can just put into your assistant. But that's what each one of these pages has, and there's a ton of them. And you can see here like a table of contents, which covers like all the different apps in this resource. We have I think like 60 something of them, and also who might use it, right? So the email personalizer, the outbounding, prospect research, that's all sales, right? If you are trying to convert content or draft new content or analyze marketing campaigns, that's more like media and marketing use cases. If you're trying to write, documentation for your code, that's more for engineering. This is just like a way to get started with, 60 something different ideas for, how could I, if I'm, in sales or marketing or I'm in operations, apply AI to do my job.
Also, that automated code documentation also probably does have some applicability to other like teams that have to document their processes and systems and things like that. So explore a little bit outside of your exact domain. You might find some interesting inspiration from unexpected places.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Um,
I'm seeing Jennifer Molina has a hand raise on Zoom, so I'm not sure if are we able to
oh,
is she
did I
able to
miss
unmute?
that? I don't know. Is she still here? I don't see Jennifer. I think we ignored her hand raise. We didn't
Uh,
see it, and she left.
she's at the
Oh,
top of
oh
the
no. Okay, I
because she
see.
raised she's at the top.
Jennifer, we're gonna hit allow to talk. If you can speak, if you want to. Three, two, one. You with us?
You may have to
Is
also unmute yourself.
yeah. You're muted.
Maybe it was an
Uh,
accidental hand raise.
Maybe that might have also happened like 30 minutes ago, and we just totally missed it because we're perfect webinar hosts. Um, okay. Thank you, everybody. That's our hour. Please send us a message. We're going to follow up with all this stuff, but if you have any follow-up questions, we're always here. And have a good day.
And also, if you thought this was useful and want us to do more of these things, let us know. We haven't done a ton of this exact format, but we're happy to do it. We want to make sure we're providing resources that are useful for y'all. If you didn't like it, tell us why and help us improve for next time. Thanks to all of you who came, and we hope to see you in our inbox and in elvex. Thanks, y'all.